Hey, this is Gene. I just came back from my walk, and I just want to talk a little bit about some some infighting that's going on. I don't nearly really. It's a little bit more than that, really. As you know, those who watch my channel, I do appreciate Nick Fuentes. I don't think the man's right all the time. I think he's something that's necessary at this time in our political discourse. I also like Tucker Carlson. I think he is kind of like wishy-washy in a lot of things, and he comes across that way. You know, he's more somebody of my age. He's a bit younger than me, but he comes from that same live and let live type of thing. Um, and when he really goes down, and he's become more, let's say, going down the rabbit hole a little bit. But he still talks about a color-blind meritocracy. He doesn't really like the idea of white people getting together and actually protecting their heritage, their race, whatever. Uh, Meanwhile, everybody else can do it. Every other type of race can do it. So, and you got Owens, which was a ultra liberal 10 years ago. Did have a lot of failed uh, businesses that didn't work. She did became friends with Charlie Kirk, but then something happened between them. I think she went somewhere else. She wanted to be kind of like on her own. Whatever, I don't know. There's a lot of infighting about that. So we have these three, I'm not going to say titans of the right wing or the hard right wing, because you can't really look at Tucker is not. He's not. He's a libertarian. Like I said, he's more of a live and live type of dude. But he will still fight when he thinks our rights are being taken away from us when it comes to free speech and everything. So we have these three different people commenting on what's actually happening after Charlie got shot and killed. One is who was a friend of Charlie Kirk, and I think even Tucker was, but I think clearly Candace, at least in some part in his life, was a really close friend of Charlie. One is kind of like is pointing out that this might be a conspiracy. I don't think she's really come out and say that she said that he's part of the conspiracy, the guy that actually we think shot Charlie. And the other ones are pretty much believing that it's not a lone gunman scenario. But it was interesting to see that Candace came out in some stuff and said that people can come out and tell me to stop. My husband can tell me to stop, and Erica could tell me to stop. And apparently neither one of them have. But she talked about the letter, and also talked about how Charlie was under a lot of pressure from donors. And these donors are all pro-Israel. And when I talk about pro-Israel, I talk about the government of Israel. As I said many times on this channel, I don't look at somebody as a group of somebody and say that they're always going to be that way. I don't look at a black person across the street and say that I have to judge him based on what I see on the news or crime stats. I think I have to be vigilant. Obviously, I'm not going to go in certain areas where there's a lot of crime, regardless of the race of the people. You can go in different places that a lot of white people are. I would not go around it. That's just being vigilant. So, she comes out and says, there's a letter that Netanyahu basically didn't really report correctly on, and then Tucker came out the next day and basically agreed pretty much with Candace. So I don't know what you get with that. Okay. I think that it's hard for me to believe that the Israeli government wanted to kill him. But then when I start thinking about it, and it's how you would be able to get this guy to do the bidding for you, or was it just a good coincidence that he was taken out? So, because we do need to be truthful with this. I don't think that the Israeli government's behind it, okay? There's no proof that says that, other than the fact he was being pressured by pro-Israel lobbyists, let's say, and that he had actually turned down money and I guess turned down going to see Israel. Charlie's already been there. He's already been to Wailing Wall. He's also put his hand on. He's put the yarmulke on. He's done the ritual that they all end up doing. And he was still pro-Israel as what it means by the biblical word of Israel. He was always been that way. But this was a man that probably in 10 years would have been a real person to run for presidency. I firmly believe this because he had the youth the youth movement behind him, just like Clinton had when he run. Now Clinton never got more than, I mean, the first time he got 42% of the vote. But what I'm saying is there, you put another 8 or 9 or 6 or 5 or 6 or 7 years of what he's doing on campuses and all that stuff, he would have been somebody that they would have recruited to be the presidency. Now, if it's true that he basically turned down the Israeli government, that he was waking up, which he had been, but as most of it, there's a certain level of woking up that you get up, you do. So probably I wouldn't want him to be the presidency 10 years from now. If he was somewhat against Israel taking over the region, let's say. But still, that's a big leap in my mind. As much as I talk about their influence in this country, I talk about the government of Israel, and some secular Jews in this country have way too much influence. That's a big leap. But it still should be explored, right? It was just interesting to see how Nick responded to that last night, and I try to give everybody grace when they're talking about other people, but it seems like he still has issues with Candace, of what happened when he came down to Nashville, and he feels that he was set up. That I think he really liked Candace. He would never. He clearly in his mind doesn't think that he's at the same level, that she is at the same level as him, intellectually or whatever. But it's just interesting how he did that, and I agree with most of what he said. He should, if you have a letter, if you have the copy of the letter, she should release it, and she shouldn't sit in there and say, "Keep talking to me, keep doing this, and I'm going to release names." Well, if you have evidence that this is going on, I think that it's pretty clear that there was some sort of pressure going on, because Tucker basically verified it, and there's no reason why Tucker would lie about that. This is a man who already has millions of dollars. He doesn't have to grift for anything. He just likes to hear himself talk. I mean, all these guys are narcissists, all of them, okay? Different levels of it. They love to see themselves on video. They like to hear themselves talk. You can't have a podcast and do it for 3 hours. It's just, you have a huge amount of respect for yourself. Just say that. And all these people have it. They think that what they have to say is important, and some of it is, okay? I'm the same way. But obviously I'm not the same level of these guys are. They actually influence people. But I think there's something here all the way around. I think there's some of the jealousy, or not really jealousy, but hurt feelings on Nick's side. But I think that his analysis is probably the closest thing to be true. However, I think there's also that Charlie was going through a change. And then the question is this. She was his friend. He, at some point, kind of like disavowed him because she was going down a road that once you start doing on the right, you become anti-Semitic. But 2 or 3 years later, now he's at the same position that she was when she started doing stuff like this, and he was talking it out. He was talking to Megyn Kelly about it, and he's saying that I'm pro-Israel, but they're still calling me anti-Semitic, and that hurt Charlie. And I think he realized where that was coming from. It was secular Jews for the most part, with a lot of money in this country, knowing that now people are starting to understand that Israel has way too much influence. When I say Israel, again, I'm talking about the government of Israel. That the people were waking up to that, and he knew it because he's on college campuses, and whether you're against Hamas or people that are supporting that, by protesting. He's still talking to a lot of young people, and he understands where their thought process is. So the, we know on the college campuses that it's, I'm not gonna say it's pro-Hamas, but it's anti-Israel, anti-Israel government. And there are a lot of Jewish people that are against that as well. You got to remember, before all this happened, that they were about to take him out of office. There were going to be scheduled protests in the streets to get him out of office, and all of a sudden this happened. And he even talks about it. Charlie Kirk said that he thinks that somebody they stand down the defense on that day. So he started about this 2 years ago, or right before it happened, right, or right after it happened. So something was changing in the man. But you can't go from that and say now the government of Israel wanted to kill him. I think this is probably, I'm going to say 95% is a lone gunman. He might talk to some people. There might be other people that might get involved as far as who was involved. Oops, sorry about that. But I think, as stupid as it sounds, this was a dude that was trying to deal with his own identity, whether he wanted to come out as a gay man, and he was in a Mormon family that was conservative. Apparently, the mother was somewhat okay with his choices of who he had sex with. His father had issues with it, but he was never disowned. He wasn't one of those stories that we hear about, well, my family just turned their back on me and I was out on the streets because of my choices. That's not how he was. They still took care of him. There are videos of him being with families. Obviously, he came over and talked to them during their dinners. I guess they still got together, and he was telling people this is where he was going politically as far as what he thought, and that's fine. If you're involved with another man and you think that this person is somewhat against that, this man just obviously did not really listen to what Charlie had to say. So, and I think he thought in his mind that this is some way to show his love interest that I'm going to stand up for you. I think that there's something to that. You have disaffected young men who had to go through COVID when he was probably 16, 17, when all that happened. And then trying to deal with the fact that he's not attracted to women, I guess, apparently. I don't know how you can, how that all works. Or just, he had this, he's really a gay man, and he couldn't deal with that, and he wanted to find a person that's actually going to be a woman through surgery or something. How you deal with that in your mind can lead you down a certain thing, and then you focus on those type of things that supports what he believes. And I'm sure he's listened to a lot of things. Apparently his lover was also on the deep web, so I'm sure there was a lot of forums and stuff that was just very anti Charlie Kirk, and part of this queer type of mob that wants to go after the conservatives. I think it's probably 95% that's what happened. I don't think he was influenced by Israel. I don't think some Mossad agents came up and knocked on his door and said, let's go do this. I said, like Nick says, we're very, very critical of what the state of Israel does. I am very critical of it because I think, even though years ago I was like, oh, I believe everything that they say. I think that Schindler's List was basically history. I'm like, then you realize it's not. Did the man live? Yeah, okay. But there's a lot more to the story of Schindler. It's how they promote this whole thing, and it's something that through history, you find out this is how they do. Not all, but the ones that are empowered do this all the time. And they'll use things like these tropes or saying you're anti-Semitic if you have any issues with it. And the fact that they would call Charlie Kirk anti-Semitic is just mind-boggling to me. Now, again, he did say what he said. And the thing is, when you have a question or you critique the government of Israel, their response is, that's anti-Semitic. Oh, okay, because it's the Jewish state, and you can't say anything about the Jewish state. And meanwhile, in this country, for 10 years, we've had these different bills and laws that are basically saying you can't say anything bad about it. And now they're trying to say your passports will be taken away if you are critical of Israel. So it's not, and clearly Charlie would be against that. He's against the erosion of free speech. I don't think he would have liked the fact that Jimmy Kimmel is no longer talking at night because of what he said. I don't think that Charlie Kirk would agree with that. You want people to say what they got to say, right? And then you can make a decision. Well, I'm not going to watch this person anymore. This guy is obviously a fucking asshole, right? I mean, what Kimmel said is he's an asshole, and he's fucking just stupid. But again, this is another guy that's got millions and millions and millions of dollars, so he's not going to be suffering. Okay. But that's all I want to talk about today. Let me know what you think. Are you on one side or the other? Do you think that this is just something that's just really distracting us away from what's actually happening with our own government, dealing with this issue with Israel, and other issues that are more important? I mean, Charlie Kirk is important, and what the waking of whatever this is important. But when people apparently on the same side are now trying to say, well, it can't be this, and then they all are being considered, they're all shills of something. They'll say Candace is a shill of Qatar, and Tucker is a shill for Russia. And then you got, now some people are even saying that Nick is a shill for Israel because he's saying that what Candace is doing is wrong. So it's like how we do this to each other. These were all opinion content. You know, you could talk about facts, but this is their analysis of what's going on, and you just take it for what it is. Again, I watched Candace, and I think she's a little bit over the top, but again, she's probably still emotional about what's happened. And clearly I am, but can you imagine she actually knew the man? And she's obviously going, but then again, she's stopped talking about the Jews, and then I don't know. She thinks something's going on, but she finds conspiracy in everything. She thinks we didn't go to the moon. Okay, that's just stupid because we did. But again, this is a lot of it's in entertainment, and we have to take it as that. She's like a true crime documentary type of thing that you can listen to it, or have a documentary about stuff like certain things. They come out and say, see this and that, and when you actually look at it, you say what that documentary said is a lot of it's bullshit. So so you have to take it with that. But I think clearly he was somewhat pressured, and he works for a non-profit, and he knows that his whole marketing thing brand was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so he had to have money to take care of it. But I don't know. I'm not at this point. Like I said, 95% lone gunman, or maybe some other people he knew. I don't think Israel influenced him at all. I think he just did it because he wanted to defend his lover. As stupid as that sounds, men do this all the fucking time. There are women out there that will talk to a man they just fucking met and said, my husband or my boyfriend beats the shit out of me, and they maybe have sex with this dude, and then all of a sudden this guy is going to go down to that house and kill somebody because we're so fucking stupid. So he probably simped for his girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and he did this. He's like, I just thought about it a week ago. Something happened. He's like, fuck it. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Israel has anything behind it at all? And we'll talk about it down there in the comments. You have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys later.